Hey guys, welcome to the monthly writing vlog. I actually have goals for this month, which is a good sign. My first and most important goal is to re-outline my novel. This first week I started that process and it's going pretty well, but I did realize that it's probably gonna take a lot longer than I thought. I know that if I want to finish story editing by May, then I really need to do this re-outlining process as soon as possible. I'm really trying not to rush myself, but I really can't help rushing myself. I'm on chapter 4 so far in my new outline. I found a new template to work off of that kind of really breaks everything down scene by scene. It breaks it down very simply as well, it gives every scene a beginning, middle, and end. It gives every scene an objective. So at least so far, I'm feeling pretty good about it. The template I'm using is from Abby Emmons. I think it's one of her custom templates. So I'll link her video below so you can see what kind of template I'm using. The thing is, I'm not rewriting the entire book by any means. Most of what I have written so far is really valuable stuff. I basically just need to go through the process of restructuring it. Cutting out what doesn't need to be there anymore, adding stuff that will probably add more to it. So as I've been working through this new outline, what I've been doing is, if I'm describing a scene that's already in the book and that I've already written out, that's going to be in a black font, whereas anything new that I'm adding to the story, any brand new scenes, or even just new elements that I want to incorporate into an existing scene, that's going to be written in red font. This is really important to me because I really just don't want to get too confused. I want to keep everything consistent, and I want to separate what already exists in the current draft versus what needs to be added in the new draft. So let's talk about my second goal, which involves some poetry, which I'm very excited about. My local library just opened up submissions for their annual poetry competition. It is free to enter for all ages, and it seems like a good first step into getting my name out there. This past week, I wrote a first draft of a poem for it. I think it's going somewhere. The only thing I'm a little concerned about is it is pretty dark. So what I want to do is do some research into this specific competition and previous winners from it. Obviously, whatever I write for this, I want to make sure it's something that in the end I'm proud of, but I also want to be mindful of the type of tone these guys are looking for. I want to figure out if I can get away with a more dark subject matter or darker imagery, or if they're looking for something that's a little more family friendly, I guess. So that's just something I have to take the time to figure out. I also have some ideas for poems that I want to write specifically for Instagram. It's tricky because I'm so used to writing something that I'm proud of and then immediately sharing it on the internet. I want to be able to write something and be able to decide is this a poem that is good but maybe something that can go on Instagram that I can share with others? Or is this something that I want to put aside because it's the best of what I'm capable of writing, and I want to put that aside to submit to contests and submit to literary magazines. But that being said, I still want to be active on my writing Instagram, so I had an idea to do kind of a series of poems, for lack of better term, and I basically want to write poems inspired by my positive affirmations. I have 5 of them, so it would be 5 poems. It just seems like something cute and simple that would be really fitting for Instagram poetry. I think all that's left is the short story. I haven't worked on it in a few weeks, which is good on one hand because I know when I do come back to it, I'll have a much fresher perspective, I'll be able to approach it differently, and I will be able to eventually finish it. I have just been doubting myself a lot when it comes to it. I've been feeling like it's too complicated for a short story, the timeline is too long, or the timeline is broken up weirdly, or there are still certain plot points that don't make sense. I am gonna return to it and I am gonna finish it. I think I can safely say that it won't be my primary focus for this month. There is this Ryan Reynolds quote that I really like. I heard it on the Smartless podcast, and he said something along the lines of if you don't allow yourself to be bad at something, then you'll never be great at it. And that's a quote that has been really easy for me to apply to skills that I wasn't naturally good at the beginning. Skills that I had to practice at for a really long time before I could get better at them. Video editing is a really good example. It was something that I was really intimidated to get into at first. I don't know, it was just never something that I expected I would ever be good at. But now it's my job. I work at a small production company and I work as a junior editor. So something like that, it was very easy for me to look at it and be oh, I wasn't naturally good at this scene before. I was really bad at it actually at first. But because I allowed myself to be bad at it, I eventually got pretty good with it. So tying that whole thing back to writing has always been something that has come very naturally to me. And because of that, I'm really struggling with this short story in the sense of like, it feels like something based on my skill level as a writer that should be done already. I've been really hard on myself when it comes to it. Like, I just keep thinking, it is a short story, the draft should be done already, the editing should be done already, and I should. I just keep thinking to myself everything that I should be. But I have to be really honest with myself and just say that, like, I haven't written a short story in a really long time. So, like, I don't have to be amazing at it yet. It doesn't have to be the best thing I've ever written in my entire life. Like, that is not what this short story should be. I'm slowly realizing that it's okay for me to apply that principle to something that, at least in my mind, I'm very naturally good at already. Even if it is a skill that I have been working on my entire life, if I don't allow myself to be bad at it, I will never be great at it. So that's something I'm really trying to internalize and, like, just take the pressure off of myself. Like, whether or not this short story is, like, the best thing I've ever written ever, like, that is not indicative of, like, the rest of my writing career in general. Anyway, I think that's everything I have to say for this week, so I will see you guys next week with another update. Valentine's Day is tomorrow, so I wanted to look super cute for this section of the vlog, as if red and pink are not already the main colors in my wardrobe at all times. I have already re-outlined half of my chapters so far, like I just hit the midpoint today, and I'm not even halfway through this month yet, so that makes me feel ahead of schedule. I think it's going as well as it can so far. I really like the new system I'm working with. It feels more organized and like more thought out. It always feels really good whenever I can like speed through the outline of a scene. Like, it just makes me feel really confident, like, okay, this specific scene is not changing. At least for now, nothing about this scene is changing yet. It's moments like that that make me feel less like I'm rewriting the whole thing and more like I'm restructuring, as opposed to like the scenes where I really need to like intensely rewrite them. But yeah, this system is great. It feels like I'm being more critical of every single scene than I ever have before. This whole process is kind of just reminding me of how important scenes are, which obviously is really obvious, but I mean it in the sense of like every scene is its own building block. So now that I'm going through and making sure every scene is as strong as it can be, that makes me feel a lot better going forward with the project. I also like that, you know, zooming out and looking at the project from like a structural perspective, it specifically helped me a lot with my flashback scenes and figuring out where I can place them in a way that makes the most sense narratively. I've definitely come across a few, not a lot, but like a few scenes where I'm like, this is doing literally nothing and I'm probably gonna have to cut the whole thing. And it's not even like one of those kill your darlings situations. It's not like I keep finding scenes that I'm in love with that I feel like you need to cut. It's more like me feeling like, oh, I spent a lot of time working on this, and even if I'm not in love with it, I still feel bad about cutting it, you know what I mean? But I also know that it's just a part of the process. Like, there's no way for me to get around that. There's no way for me to get around having scenes that will inevitably need to be cut out, or having scenes that need to be completely rewritten, and like, it's all just a part of the process. For poetry, I haven't been as productive as I'd been with the novel, but I'm still writing and brainstorming and everything. Last week, I had one poem idea for the contest, and now I have another one. This new idea I have is good, and it has a lot of, like, more concrete imagery than the first one did. The problem is I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say with it yet. I'm not sure what the meaning of it is yet, and I think I just need to figure that part of it out. I have plenty of time before the deadline, so I'm not too worried about it, but I just know it's still something that I need to like untangle and just figure out, I guess. I didn't think I was gonna make any progress on like the Instagram poems that I want to write. I was struggling with the little like positive affirmation prompt that I had given to myself. I just realized for each of the positive affirmations I have, I just didn't have a lot to say about each of them. I didn't have nothing to say about each of them, I just didn't have a lot. And then today I remembered that haikus exist. Hi, editing Julia here. I'm about to go on a really long tangent about why I like haikus, but all of this is just to say that my plan for these like positive affirmation poems is to write them all as haikus. I kind of got distracted by my own tangent and forgot to mention that part of it. So anyway, I hope you enjoy hearing me rant ramble about why I like haikus. I've always really loved haikus. I love how manageable they are to write. Like, again, if you have a topic that you don't have a lot to say about, but you think you have like just enough to say about to make a poem. However, they are not easy. Just because they are shorter, that does not mean they are easy, which I love about them. They're just this really good balance of like manageable to write while also being challenging, because you only have 3 lines, so you want to make sure every single word packs as much of a punch as possible. And also just having a structure can be really nice, I think. Like, I really enjoy free verse poetry. I like the freedom of it, and I like how you can pretty much do whatever you want. Like, there are no rules. But I do think sometimes when you give yourself rules, even if they're very simple rules, like the way a haiku is structured, that can just be really nice. Like, I feel like having a healthy dose of restriction for yourself, I feel like it can just help bring out something really powerful. One of my favorite quotes is something that I can't remember off the top of my head. There's this quote about creativity that I picked up in film school that I really like and has really stuck with me. I think it was Orson Welles, and he said that the enemy of art is the absence of limitations. And that's something I feel like that has just always stuck with me, so I really like that. That's everything I have for this week. I will update you guys next week. Okay, so I actually have a lot of poetry updates I wanted to start with today, so let's get into that first. So I'm finally breaking ground with that local poetry contest I've been trying to write for, and I'm finally making progress with another new poetry idea. Literally every week so far I've come up with a new poetry idea, but this one is the one, okay? This one is gonna work. Let me tell you a story. It was Friday night, I had had a glass of rosé, and right before I went to bed, I had the idea for this poem, but I was so tired that I didn't want to like go all the way over to my computer. So I grabbed my journal and I just started like scribbling down some ideas and images that were coming to me, and I knew I had this like specific rhythm that I wanted the poem to follow as well, so I kept like trying to keep it in that consistent rhythm, and then I went to bed. So that was last night, and as soon as I woke up, I just started tinkering with this idea, and it's almost 4 in the afternoon now, so I have been working on this poem for less than 24 hours, and I'm about to submit it. I don't know if this is the best idea to like submit something to a contest this soon, but like I have very meticulously been working on this. I've been just trying to be as methodical as I can with my word choice. There's just a couple lines that I came up with in this too that I'm really proud of myself because they're so clever. I don't want to sound too full of myself, but it is a really cool poem and I'm really proud of myself for coming up with it. So now all that's left to do is to submit it. Okay, it's happening, it's happening, it's happening. You have successfully submitted. Oh my god. It's done. Okay, now that that's done, the deadline isn't until the end of this month, so I'm really happy I sent it in with a lot of time to spare. Obviously, my first instinct is to like hope and pray that I'm one of the finalists, but I want to be realistic. I want to keep my expectations low. But I don't know, I'm trying to find that healthy balance. Even if I don't get in, I still have written a really strong poem that I can submit to other places, so really I'm trying to look at it like that. And yeah, I will let you guys know how that goes. I also have another poetry related update, which is really fun. Earlier this week, one of my friends sent me this open call for like spoken word poets in my city, just for future events that this event venue was going to be putting on. So I submitted a poem for that. I didn't write anything new for it. I actually submitted my poem Too Slow, which I have a poetry performance video thing on this channel if you want to check that out. I still think it's one of the stronger spoken word poems that I've ever written, so I figured I might as well start with that. And the event coordinators got back to me and they want me to perform in May, so that's super exciting. I'm really hoping I can fit it into my schedule because like that would be so much fun. I haven't performed a poem live since like I was in college, so it would just be a really cool opportunity and I'm really excited for it. Okay, so as for updates with the novel, this week I really dove into a lot of the newer chapters that I wrote back in November, which has been really satisfying. Like obviously all of those new chapters are really messy and do need to be cleaned up a little bit, but being able to kind of zoom out and kind of look at them in the context of the rest of the story, it's been really satisfying to just be like, yeah, these are really really strong chapters. A lot of the new stuff that I added in November is still really strong and does belong in the book, and that feels really good to kind of reassure myself of that. At this point, I'm almost done re-outlining Act 2. I think today I'll probably finish Act 2, and that's really great. I really feel on track to finish this new outline by the end of the month. And yeah, that's where I'm at with everything. It felt like a really productive week. It's been a productive month, really, honestly. I feel really fulfilled and engaged in most of my creative projects right now, and that's a really good feeling. I'll talk to you guys again next week with a final update. End of the outline. I'm really excited. I'm really glad I was able to like mostly wrap it up by the end of the month like I wanted to. I was surprised by how many new scenes I came up with for this. It wasn't like a crazy amount of new scenes, but it was definitely like more than I was expecting, I guess. But they all felt really good. I guess the entire process of doing this month, all of my new ideas felt a lot less random than they felt over the past like 6 months, basically. It finally felt like there was like a method to the madness, I guess. I'm just really proud of the fact that like every scene I went over and every like new scene that I came up with, all of it served a specific purpose, which was my goal with this in the first place. A lot of the new stuff was really focusing on like strengthening my side characters. I guess not all of my side characters, but like a couple specific ones that I've been struggling with for a while. I've been struggling with more of like the background characters because sometimes it just feels like they don't fully fit into the world, but now it feels like they finally do, which is really nice, and it feels like they serve a specific purpose as well. Like I have a few specific side characters that are like significantly more interesting than they were when I first started writing, and like their journeys feel just as interesting as like the main characters' journeys, if that makes sense. At least in my outline. I'm hoping it translates well when I actually write all of this out. All of that said, I don't think the outline is like 100% perfect yet. There have been moments, especially as I've gotten towards the end of it, where I've been like, oh, I don't think I foreshadowed this one thing that happens well enough, or feeling like I haven't built up enough suspense for this one thing to happen at the end enough. At this moment, I can confidently say that every single scene in the novel has been outlined, but I am planning on maybe giving myself a week, hopefully less, just to like clean it up a little bit, tighten some parts that need tightening, foreshadow what needs to be foreshadowed, stuff like that, just before I start implementing all of these notes into the writing process, basically. Realistically, I think I can say that the outline is like 95% of the way done, which I'm still really proud of, and I'm really happy that I got here. Oh, I forgot to tell you the best part, which is that I fixed my ending. I've been struggling with the ending for a while. Not that I don't know how it needs to end, but it's a lot of the specifics and the mechanics, really, of the scene that I'm kind of struggling with. But throughout this re-outlining process, I have figured out, like, at least on a structural level, what the final chapter of the book needs to be. When I write it all out, I think it's going to be a pretty long epilogue, just because it is combining the last 2 chapters, but I'm really excited about it. Like, I've outlined it out. I know, like, beat for beat what every scene of the epilogue needs to be, specifically what, like, point of view it needs to be in, and I'm really excited to write it out. I think it'll be really interesting to kind of combine 2 chapters into 1 chapter and try and make it as cohesive as possible. But yeah, it's been a really good month. It's been really productive. I'm feeling more excited about the novel than I have in a while, and I'm just looking forward to everything. Lots of exciting stuff with poetry on the horizon. But yeah, my plans for March are spend a week or like hopefully less tightening up the outline, and then for the rest of the month, obviously applying everything I did, everything I planned out in the outline to the actual manuscript. And it's going to take a lot of work, and I'm definitely nervous, and I'm not sure how long it's going to take realistically, but I'm really excited and I can't wait. That is everything I have to say, I think. I hope your February was full of love in all of its forms. I hope you do something nice for yourself today, and I will see you in March.